Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects. And I'm here today with Kristina Marino, the CEO of IT Accel. And I'm really excited to host her again. See, if you desire to be a cloud architect, build a cloud computing career, or looking for a cloud architect job, working with an extreme recruiter, someone that's got big connections with companies throughout the world, is someone that's really going to help you get a cloud architect job. It's going to really help you get the types of roles that you desire. Today, you can ask us any kind of questions, whether it's a cloud engineer versus a cloud architect or a cloud architect versus a cloud engineer. If you're curious about what people are looking for DevOps positions or SysOps positions or network architect or cloud architect positions, anything you can do, we've got the staff on it for you. Kristina has been in the recruiting business for over 20 years. She runs a premier recruiting firm in New York City. She has placed countless graduates of mine over the years into really great banks, really great tech companies, really great global organizations, and I trust them explicitly. I've worked with this recruiting firm for over 20 years. They've got me 2 of the 5 jobs in my 25-year tech career, and they have really helped so many of my students over the years. If you're really looking for getting your first tech job or getting promoted in tech, you need to have good tech recruiters on your team. Good tech recruiters like Kristina have deep relationships with customers. The customers will literally call them sometimes and say, this is exactly what I need. And a recruiter like Kristina can actually place that person based on exactly what they need. So we can talk about crazy cloud architect job descriptions, which have nothing to do with cloud architect work whatsoever. We can talk about how to read the lines in job descriptions so you can navigate what to do. We can talk about how to get your resume directly in the hands of the hiring manager. We can tell you what employers desire in the perfect cloud architect versus the perfect cloud engineer versus the perfect DevOps engineer. We've agreed to do this with IT Accel every other Friday to really give you the best options and the best insight. If you want to know how to get hired, ask people to focus on getting hired. We focus on getting hired, but better than this, ask the recruiters. Ask someone like Kristina or team, someone that has experience knowing exactly what hiring managers want, because they call her every day and they say, I need this. And someone like Kristina or one of the 20 recruiters on our team can call that hiring manager, find out exactly what they want for the job, prep you for the job, prep you for the interview, and then place you directly in the hands of the hiring manager without ever even applying with HR. So by the time HR even sees your resume, it's because you've been hired. And you won't fill out an application until you've been hired. So when you work with really great recruiters. So that's why we're really here. A little bit of housekeeping to remind everybody. Today, we have our completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp starting at 12 p.m. We had a great time. Thousands were in attendance this week. So if you're not here, please join. But today, we're going to focus on getting employed, getting cloud hired. So if you're here and you want to know about how to get hired, in the chat box, use hashtag cloud hired. While you're doing that, I'm going to turn this over to Kristina to allow her to introduce herself for you. Kristina, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristina Marino. I own IT Accel. We are a technology staffing and recruitment services company in Midtown, New York City. I started off in the industry in 1997, and about 2 years into it, I started my own firm, and primarily in the infrastructure space, and not only doing permanent placements, but also consulting. So we are a national staffing company, and we are also in Canada and do some overseas work as well. And started off placing Bay Router and Cisco Router, Novell, CC Mail, stuff. Remember that, Mike?
I sure do. I love that stuff. It actually worked really well.
Yeah. And so started off, placing engineers in like I said, in the infrastructure space, and have moved with the ever-changing tech, now placing cloud engineers and project managers, directors, C-level, all in the areas of infrastructure, some development as well. As the two worlds merge, we've done more development as well. And we'll be talking about that today. But yeah, It's been, I love the industry. I love changing people's lives and giving them support on their career.
And thank you for doing that. And I want to let you guys know how good a valuable recruiting team can be for your career. So I've accepted 2 jobs that Kristina's firm has given me. One day I was given 2 job offers by 2 separate firms. Obviously, I only accepted one. I then accepted another great position through IT Accel. And there was another one that was a great position, but I had 2 job offers at the same time, so I accepted something different, and they were very kind about it. But that's sort of what happens when you apply for things. But to be able to get me multiple job offers in a single day shows exactly how connected good recruiters can actually be. They know the right people. They know exactly what you need. So unlike going through HR, where they look for 50 years experience, 20 Olympic gold medals, knowledge in every area other than your career, a good tech recruiter gets you directly in front of the hiring manager. Once it's up to you and the hiring manager, it's up to your knowledge. Now, having said that, so I'm going to start the first thing, because I hate this thing with regards to experience. I know what it's like being a hiring manager, and I know how busy it is. Kristina, how busy is the average hiring manager in terms of time to actually look at resumes?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother job in itself. And
just trying to even look at the resumes.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, so hiring managers are pulled in so many different directions and have, with over the years, it's gotten a lot worse with having many different ways of communication coming in now. It's not just a phone. How, like, when I started off in the business, it was 2 phones and a fax machine. I literally faxed resumes over hiring managers, and then I would have to somehow get the hiring managers to walk over to the fax machine. Sometimes it wasn't on the same floor, and then they'd have to go through like 50 faxes, and I would be like, no, it was probably number 35. Like, it's go to like half of the batch. Now it's even worse because you've got email, you've got texting. There's just so many different ways of information coming in at you. So, which is a major distraction. So, but that's our value proposition. It's like hiring managers don't have time to go through 50, 25 resumes, and having a good recruiter, and having the relationships, understanding the culture, understanding the hiring manager's mentality, the organization's, real, tech, what they're doing technically or where they want to go. If we send 1 or 2 resumes, it should be spot on and interview the person. So yeah, time is a problem.
There's a reason I'm going down this questioning pathway. There's some things that I want to do, but I don't want to bias you with answers since we didn't coordinate this at all. So hiring managers are really busy people. Mm-hmm. Does the hiring manager have time to interview 50 people that don't have the ability to do the job?
Yeah, no.
Do they have the time to interview 20 people that don't have the ability to do the job?
No.
Okay.
They don't have the time to look at 20 resumes of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you bring someone in to interview them, would it be fair to assume that the hiring manager has some confidence they can hire this person?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm saying this is I keep hearing about this experience thing. Mm-hmm. And here's when I usually hear the experience. Someone goes on an interview, they've been to the interview, and then the hiring manager says to them, come back when you have more experience. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm thinking at this tech company, the first tech company I worked for, where they told me to do a courtesy interview. And I said, what's a courtesy interview? Mm-hmm. They said, someone's come in. As soon as they got here, they were a disaster. So please interview them. Please make them feel good about themselves. And then somewhere along the line, we'll tell them, sorry, come back when you have more experience. We really like you, but you just don't have the experience. Have you experienced this before?
Oh, yeah.
When I speak to the hiring managers after the fact, because I've, got a lot of hiring managers, and, I usually call you guys, but if it's a hiring manager I know that just posted the job, sometimes I call them and I say, what happened? And they say, Mike, what was on this person's resume looked like we could hire them. But when we spoke to them, they knew nothing. In fact, So because of this, we told them they have no experience. Otherwise, because we can't say, hey, by the way, you can't do the job. We don't like you. We just have to say you don't have experience. That sounds better. So there's a difference between not having the experience to be interviewed in the first place. But companies like AWS interview people every day with zero experience.
Right.
And they hire them too if they're capable. But when someone goes in there with no knowledge, they say, come back when you have more experience. It's a euphemism.
Yeah. It's like the, round peg, round hole, kind of perfect fit that everyone's looking for. They want every different certification, a jack of all trades, yet specialized, understand this particular industry knowledge. And it's unrealistic. A lot of the times, a lot of these job descriptions are unrealistic, and people's expectations of what they feel should be the perfect candidate is off big time.
I know where I think these job descriptions are coming from. Well, actually, I know some are coming from cutting and pasting from job boards. And the reason I know this for a fact is I constantly look at them and I'm constantly comparing them. And a lot of them look like what I would do is if I had to make a job description was, wow, let me get it Indeed. This looks remarkably comprehensive, cut and paste. Mm-hmm. I'm like, none of this is what I need my person to do, but I don't know how to write a job description. Right. Add the 10 things that I need, pop it back on ZipRecruiter and Dice, and then the next person does the same thing. So I know some of that are coming. But I have a sneaky suspicion these ridiculous job descriptions are coming from somebody other than the hiring manager. Someone that has no idea.
They definitely are. I mean, let's face it, some of the hiring managers that I deal with are so busy. They'll tell me about a specific rec and I say, get a job description together. But when I reach out to candidates, I tell them by the time the manager gets the job description, the role's going to be filled. I will have filled it already.
Yeah.
I can verbally talk to you about the company, the team, what they're looking for. And so, but yeah, I'd rather a hiring manager not create a job description that was completely nuts or unrealistic. And I'd rather just discuss and let's face it, some people, some candidates, they just want the job description and they won't even look at the role. Which is unfortunate because if it's a real position and they should be confident with their skills to at least have a conversation. So,
yeah, I think that's pretty important to have a conversation. I personally think HR is making some of these job descriptions.
Yeah.
Because they're just out of touch with reality. Because
because it's not their reality. HR is pulled in so many different directions. That's just one tiny function of their role. So for them to have to come up with that job description in tech or whatever, whatever part of their department, or it's actually it's not fair.
So it is. So I mean, for the folks that are here, because we've got people coming from all over of different backgrounds. And people always ask me which cloud, and I say, do I learn AWS, Azure, Google? And I say, learn the cloud, not a single vendor. And I say, look, if you learn how to drive a car, it doesn't matter whether it's Mercedes, Toyota, BMW, or a Chevy. You can just drive a car. And that's the way we train our architects when they work. But I still think somebody should get a home certification on a home cloud. We're starting to get to the point where it's 50-50 AWS versus Azure versus what I'm starting to see what's going on. I feel like Azure's growing very fast compared to the other providers. What are you guys seeing with regards to jobs?
I would say Azure, number 1, AWS, number 2, and GCP, number 3. And when I do get roles, GCP roles, it's like there's maybe about 10 in the US or most are in Canada, and the rates are I mean, these people are making a lot of money. They're making
maybe that's why I keep getting calls from Canada to be a Google architect.
Oh, really? It's
constantly. I mean, I
find all of my GCP people. A lot reside in Canada.
And I'm getting big offers for the GCP stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, real big offers. Now, I've got a company to run. I love what I do. Hundreds and thousands of people depend on me, so I can't change. But, the point is it's good to be asked. It makes you feel really good. Wow, I love to see people joining us from Nigeria, people joining us from Europe, people joining us from Asia, because I see a lot of these people that are actually here. I kind of love that.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
That's
one of
so
the people
cool.
that just came up with it.
That's awesome.
Was from Nigeria. So I know some of the names on this call, and I can see some people are from Ethiopia, some people are from India. I'm looking at names right here. Tyrone's in South Africa. Norwegians are over here right now, which is kind of funny. Aqua's from Cameroon. Dean is there, and Dean's question is, are the certs the same for the UK? And the answer is pretty much the same. The Google certs, the Azure certs are pretty much the same in any country. Dean, I know you just became a student of mine. You're coming from what's the word I'm looking for? Well, you're coming from the UK and an EMT like me. I was an EMT before I was a paramedic, before I was a nurse, before I was a nurse practitioner. And I kind of love that. So yes, it's the same kind of thing in the US versus the UK. And actually, certain places I feel like Azure is growing even faster. Like in the West Indian region, like the Caribbean, it feels like Azure is really, really growing. And then in certain parts of the world, like Canada, it feels like Google's gone. Actually, somebody asked me to support a Google Cloud client in Japan a few months ago. So, and I was like, I couldn't work those hours, but it was cool. I actually called a buddy of mine in India and said, hey, are you interested in taking this job over for me?
It's interesting what you said about, learning cloud, not needing a particular, whether it's Azure, AWS, or GCP. But I do notice that GCP people know Azure and AWS, whereas Azure people don't know GCP. Do you see that as well? I haven't met a GCP person that doesn't know the other two.
Well, I think what you're going to see is as follows, and here's the reason. So the AWS exams are the name of the service and how to configure it, which has literally nothing to do with architecture whatsoever. And the Azure exams are the same thing. Here's a service and here's how to configure it. The Google exam, and I actually believe the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam is a good one. Now, I did take that exam. I took it with 2 days notice. And the reason I took it with 2 days notice is I wanted to check the validity of our AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional book that I had written. And I had said to my partner, I said, if our book is good and we're really teaching the cloud, not just the name of the service and how to configure it, I should be able to go take a Google Cloud Professional Architect exam with 2 days notice and still pass it, which I did because I teach cloud and cloud works for everybody. But when you do the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam and you prepare for that, there's actual architecture involved in that exam. They actually ask you design principles, how things work together. So the Google exam is substantially harder for most people because you can't just memorize the questions and answers. You actually have to know something. So because of that, the people that become the Google Professional Cloud Architects, if they didn't cheat their way through it with exam dumps, tend to know a lot more because the exam is much harder and it forces you to know architecture. And it forces you to know what the systems are. So for example, AWS makes up terms like an IAM role for a system to access another system. The entire computing world calls that a service account for a computer attached to another system. So if you know architecture, use the Google account, it'll work on Google, it'll work on OpenStack Ansible, it'll work on anything. Whereas if you do the AWS things, you got to strip off all the branding to try and figure out what it is. So because of that, you often find that people don't learn the cloud, they just learn the cloud provider, except the Google people typically don't know how to design anything off of their own cloud. That's what I think, why I think you're seeing that.
Right. But you know how there's a huge gap between theory and hands-on experience.
Yes.
And even though you have a certification, if you don't have that hands-on experience, it's difficult to obviously to get positions where you're competing against people with that experience, even though you might have the certification and the others don't. So in your experience, and I just thought of this question because, you're like, oh, I took this exam. Any exam that you take over the years, you've passed. And, obviously you're a brilliant dude and, you're able to do that. But how would you train people to teach people when going on these roles, even though they have the certification in what you're training and what you're doing? Is it,
Good question.
Is it safe to say that I've done this in a lab or I've done this, not in production?
Well, the answer is yes, but it has to be the right stuff.
Okay.
So, for example, when I went from healthcare to senior network engineer as a first job, I didn't just, do the labs that were associated with my course. They were nothing.
Right.
I did real labs, and I basically started looking up and seeing what enterprises design. I was reading Cisco white papers of technology. I was mocking it up in my house. So, for example, let's parlay that to the cloud. I taught an 8-year-old little girl, and she's really cute, how to basically turn on what's called a virtual machine in the AWS cloud. They call it an EC2 instance. She clicked 3 clicks, she smiled, and she said EC2, and every time she does it, it makes me smile. That is not experience, and nobody's going to hire somebody. Nobody's going to pay somebody $150,000 to $400,000 a year to click 3 buttons on a management console. Now, having said all of that, what we do is different. As you know, the people that are hiring as cloud architects typically have a network and a data center background because they're moving all those things from the network and the data center to the cloud. So in addition to like when we train people, typically speaking, a certification training is about 10 to 15 hours. We take people with no experience and no background and put them through 500 hours of training. And in these 500 hours of training, our students are setting up VMware ESXi. Our students are building containers. Our students are building the LAMP stack. Our students are building firewalls from scratch, VPN concentrators from scratch. Our students are set up enterprise-wide file sharing. Our students actually build Active Directory servers. Our students even build the cloud from scratch on our servers. So when our students go in there, they've got a Go Cloud Architect section that literally lists, what would be the equivalent of 5 to 10 years worth of industry experience, and they built their own cloud. So when they go in an interview and they say, have you done any of this? They're like, yes, I built an OpenStack Ansible cloud. I've set up Active Directory. I've federated my OpenStack Ansible cloud. I've worked with server virtualization. I've worked with containers. I've worked with networking, firewall security. So now they have experience. Now, for students that aren't with me, if they buy themselves a minimum server of 16 cores, 128 gigs of RAM, 3 SSD drives, and RAID 0, they can do all of this in that environment, and they can do these things at home. The key when you're not, at least from my experience, when you're going for a job that needs experience, is not playing their game. It's playing your game. So find a Kristina. Ideally, Kristina, she'll list up her things, and you can email that office, and if we got the right resume, they'll work with you. But find your Kristina that knows the hiring managers in the area. Build a relationship. Let them know, honestly, the recruiters, your strengths and weaknesses. Give them the most accurate information you can. Let them connect you directly to the hiring manager, and based on what's the right role for your position. Then have the best attitude, the best communication skills, the best soft skills, the best emotional intelligence, the best presentation skills, and be high on the likability factor. Kristen, how much does likability and soft skills come into the hiring process?
95% of the time.
So
It's a ridiculously high number. It really is. I mean, I've sent applicants in that were spot on tech-wise, and hiring managers have hired the more likable, not socially inept, less technical candidate over the candidate that was very technical but couldn't deal with clients as well. It really is. It really is such a big difference.
I feel like it's everything.
Yep.
When you don't have a lot of experience, and then we'll go to some questions because we've just got some, which we apparently have at least 10 of them. So
yeah.
I don't want to, but to me, when you're not lack experience, the reason my students have done so well, the reason I was able to take these roles, is I was so likable, and I showed the hiring manager that I have knowledge, energy, enthusiasm, passion. I didn't lie on an interview. When there were questions I didn't know, I just told them. But I made it clear that I was willing to do whatever it took to be the best person I could to help that manager rise in their career.
I feel like a lot of people sometimes think that an interview, they have this like unrealistic idea of what an interview should be. Like they have to like put on like an act or something, or, be, super professional, or just become somebody else, right? Because it's an interview. And when I prep all of my candidates, I really try to drill into their head that this is a conversation. It's a way for you and the hiring manager to see if there's synergy. In that short period of time, you both need to figure out whether this is the right role, this is the right company for you, and if you as a candidate is the right choice. And it's just through conversation. It's about talking about where you're from, what you're looking to do in your career, and being transparent and being honest, and talking about your strengths and weaknesses, and not saying that, you ask that question, what are your weaknesses? Well, I just can't stop thinking about work when I get home.
Exactly. That's not authentic.
It's a weakness. It's so scripted. You just need to have a conversation. It's like, shoot the shit and be transparent and talk about who you are, where you're from. And that's it. And that emotional intelligence comes, it's a huge part of the whole thing.
I think it's just so important.
So, yeah.
So Chris, if you want to start bringing in some questions, we'll answer some. Mario, which things make hiring managers identify quickly those resumes with potential? So I'm going to start with you, Kristina, and then I'll answer this as well.
Well, I would say the resume is your brand. It's a quick snapshot of who you are, what you've done, and where you're looking to go. And having a 4 or 5 page resume, even if you've been in the industry, so many people have said to me, I've been in the industry for 20 years. I can't put it all on paper. Exactly. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to put it all on paper. And if you do, it's a problem. It's a problem for a lot of hiring managers and recruiters too. It's like, stop trying to do that. The resume as a brand, as your piece of advertising, it's advertising for yourself. And it's like, so put down the last 4 roles, put down some of your accomplishments, which technology you've touched, and also tailor your resume for the role. 20 years ago, I one of my clients was the CIO of AOL Time Warner, and he had 30 years experience, 35 years experience. And he told me, he's like, I've got 9 different resumes because I can't put all of my job functions and from each different company. I can't put that into a resume. And I found that really interesting because, it's in a way, it's like some people might think that's cheating, or maybe that's not correct, or no, it is. It's fine. Tailor your resume. It helps the hiring manager out a lot. Just to kind of as a recruiter or manager going through the resume, it's like trying to really figure it out. No, we don't want to do that. Tailor your resume if you feel you're a good fit, and then it just makes it easier and more efficient when going through all these other resumes.
That's a great point. I'll elaborate on that, and I'm going to give you some of my tips as well.
Okay.
So first, I have multiple resumes. I have one as a network architect. I have one as an enterprise architect. I have one as a cloud architect. I have one as an industry leader in healthcare information technology. I have one that I use if I ever want to volunteer and practice medicine for somebody. And then I've got another one for leadership. All me, all honest, but when I talk about the leadership things I've done, and another thing I talk about the medical things I've done, and another thing I talk about the healthcare industry thing. Tailor the resume to the job. Now, I will give you my extra 2 things that I strongly recommend, and you can ask Kristina if she likes the idea, and she'll be 100% honest. Since she's not part of our team, and that's why we love bringing in people that are not part of our team, so you can hear from other experts. On the top line of your resume, I think you need to have something that screams "read me." Here's the key: it's really hard to get anybody to read your resume. So at the top of mine, I have something that I would think look good. I have these big giant bold letters that says Mike Gibbs, MS, MBA, CCIE, Google Professional Cloud Architect. And then after that, I usually, but not always, list an AWS cert. And the reason is I have the big ones. I don't create too much alphabet soup, but I have the things that say read me. The next thing that I would tell you is if there's an objective on your resume that was the worst idea I've ever seen in my entire life, an objective says what you want out of the employer-employee relationship. Now, when you go to the store to buy something, let's say you buy a car, you don't ask the car, would you like me to purchase you? I mean, you might, but most people don't. So My wife has the shoe addiction. I don't completely understand it. There's well over 300 pairs of shoes, and 2 to 3 come home almost every day. So yet to figure this out. But I asked her, do you ask the shoes if they'd like to come home with you? And she says no. So I would say if you've got an objective, get rid of it. So I'd say at the top, have something that makes you readable, like the big read me, and then put a very short executive summary. And in that executive summary, show what you can do to help that company. And then so that maybe you can entice someone to keep reading. What are your thoughts on that,
I
Kristina?
agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
And then I say use action-oriented terms when you can. If there's numbers and metrics that show you've done something, add them. If you've won awards, add them. If you've done public speakings, add it. If you've done any publications, add it.
Yep.
And I'd say make sure that everything you've done or need to do that you can do is written there. And I would say if there's something you haven't done or don't know, do not put it on there because you're going to open yourself up for being attacked on an interview with all the things that are on your resume.
Oh, I was just about to mention that. I was just about to get into that. Yeah, a lot of people will put every bit or every tech that they've read about or touched or, you know, where Windows, Linux, like just everything. And I always tell people it's better to, it's like less is more. It's so much more advantageous to be on an interview, and if the hiring manager mentions the other technology that's not on your resume, and you're able to talk about it, and you're able to share ideas and discuss it in depth, but not, you know, you haven't touched it in depth enough to put on your resume. It's just so much better than having all of this stuff on your resume, coming across like you've touched all this technology, and then getting grilled by a hiring manager when they ask basic, you know, questions or, you know, for basic syntax, and you can't answer it. And then, so, you know, it's like,
I remember
it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So it's better.
I remember
put less on the resume and then be able to speak to more, you know, more in depth about it.
I think that's really important. I remember when you guys sent me to that first, you know, market maker, the largest market maker on the NASDAQ at the time. And I remember the CIO and the other person that said to me, Mike, I see you've listed BGP, OSPF, IP multicast, spanning tree, and like 4 or 5 other things. He said, that's all you've listed. I said, I'm an expert on these things. And they said, you know other things? I said, sure, but this is my area of expertise. And I figure you should know what I'm an expert in, and those other things are not my skills. Now, the hiring manager was like, well, thank you, because I need a BGP guy. We've had a BGP project for a year, and we can't find anybody into those BGP.
Yeah.
Now, the chief information officer was like, one day says like, hey, Mike, I think you should learn scripting. And I'm like, why do you want me to learn scripting? He says, well, you know, now that you've designed our networks and they're working so well, maybe you could do other stuff. And I said, do you really want me to learn scripting? And he says, yeah. So I say, okay, party time. And he sent me to Sun Microsystems in Boston. And I was living on a Wall Street expense account. So I'm staying in the nicest hotel and I'm having great steak and I'm drinking this Macallan 25. You know, I'm really enjoying it. Life's really good. And, you know, on my mind, I'm like, somebody's paying to send me on a vacation to learn something. You know,
that's
the
great.
most ridiculous idea in the world to teach your lead architect to script. But okay, so I go there, and you know, there was a bunch of emails, but you know, I was having so much fun, I wasn't paying attention to them. I walk in there, and I get hugged by the CEO, and he says, "I'm so glad you're back." And he said, do you know the kind of outages we had while you were gone? I said, I've been asking you why you wanted me to learn the script. He's like, no, you will never be doing that. I just need you to take care of the BGP and the OSPF and make sure the network never goes down again. And I did. And that was the rest of my job. Exactly. So I'm told we've got more questions. So actually, before we go to more questions, if you're enjoying this content, please leave a like or subscribe or forward to someone else. Sharing equals caring. And Chris will bring up the next question. This is for Kristina. Kristina, how important are personal statements covering the cover letter separate from your resume in the hiring process?
So that's a great question. And I get asked this a lot. I feel like the cover letter was so important back 20 years ago. It's like, I don't see that a lot. You know, in the late 90s, it was like, include a cover letter with your resume And if you didn't, it was like, we wouldn't even look at you. Certain companies would say that. It's just something I don't see anymore. Again, I think it's just it's like I think it's either or, either a cover letter that's a quick snapshot about your background and where you've worked and what value you can add to an organization, or a resume. So the cover letter really should kind of be a resume, but more of like, a mix between the two. But yeah, I mean, back to the hiring managers not having time to read a cover letter on top of the resume. It's a lot. Maybe when you get to the HR process and they request that, then of course, yes, you can put something together. But initially, that would be my best advice on that. Mike, what do you think about that?
It's interesting. And here's my cover letter. Please consider me for XYZ position. I have 25 years experience in XYZ. I believe I could help you with XYZ. And then I attach my resume. That is it. I'm from the group. I remember when I finished my MBA and I was writing complex writing. I had 2 master's degrees, so I was doing all this writing. And I had an executive coach, Francis, and she says, Mike, all that needs to go into 2 pages or less. Like these 200 pages need to become 2. That is how you do executive writing. That is how you get your documents read. And that really has changed my life. The number of promotions I got from that, the ability that it helped my career is everything. So short and sweet with everything that I try and do.
Yep, I agree.
Robert, hi, Kristina. Could you share a recent success story of someone placed in their first cloud architect job with no previous tech background?
So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. So I had a hiring manager that has been in the industry for about 30, for about 30 years, not so much technical, but they wanted somebody that had, had some experience in technology, not completely zero experience in technology, but somebody that was good. So this was an MSP client, and they were looking for somebody that had excellent customer service skills, excellent understanding of client service skills, being just client facing. So great presentation, great social skills, white glove service. And actually their background was more on the sales side. So, a lot of these like VARs or managed services company that are servicing clients need somebody that has that white glove service. So, so I sent this candidate in, and he actually also had a photography background, but I sent the candidate in, and after the hiring manager spoke with the candidate and, came back to me and said, you know what, the technical skills can be taught, but that like the innate social skills that this candidate has is just, I can train tech. I can't train, I can't train the customer service that this person has. Or they can train it, but they don't have time. They need somebody to get right. And the fact that this person had some sales background and felt comfortable and confident in going in and representing that company and being able to then reach out to other resources in the organization to get that, to get that technology, fixed, or going to the right people to troubleshoot problems was key. So I think it was the personality of the person that allowed the hiring manager to pull the trigger and be comfortable with that person coming in and not hitting the ground run on the technical side, but being able to get the job.
Yeah, and one of mine recently was a student from Nigeria. He was with us for 3 weeks, and then he joined AWS. He never worked in tech before in his life. Now, a couple of things. Highly emotionally intelligent person.
Yeah.
Highly motivated person. And we did 2 practice interviews. It wasn't exactly an architect. It was another role with AWS where basically he's involved in the sales and the design process. architect, but they called it something different. And recently, somebody else that I collaborated with in England who also had no tech background, had a sales background, just took a job like that as well. But sales was on their key. They were very likable people. The likability and communication skills, they were all weak on tech because I didn't have a chance to really train anybody. One guy was 3 weeks. How much training can you give somebody in 3 weeks? Another guy had a very short period of time to work with in England, but he was sales. And another one of my recent cloud architects had some tech experience, but none of it was related. And I recently had 2 people join IBM as a senior cloud architect, and they also didn't have cloud experience. They had other kinds of experience, but it was still valid. So there's no such thing as no experience. The key is what experience you can take from your past job,
right,
and apply it to this job and show the hiring manager. So if you worked in consulting before, you show that hiring manager that, look, I've been in strategy consulting for years. I start with the clients. I begin with the executive. They tell me their business goals, what they're trying to achieve, and the strategy of the business. After that, I baseline the current systems. After that, I deal with the field people. That's what we do in consulting. But that's the same thing we do in architecture. So it doesn't matter if you've done the same job. You have to convince people that other job you've done is related to what you're going to do, and that you don't have to learn the whole process. The process to me is harder to learn than the tech.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about that salesperson, because that person that I placed was in sales prior to and understood technology, but was looking to get more technical. But I think because he had that sales experience and understood how it operated, kind of like just, not at like the granular techie stuff, but like overall, like how it all connected and worked. That's why the hiring manager pulled the trigger.
Absolutely. And that's been my experience. The
Right.
more likable, the more verbal.
Yes.
And that's why I spend so much time on that. Now, granted, these skills help you get promoted for the rest of your career. But when you don't have experience, you have to be so good in every other way and equally competent, because you have to have the competency of experience.
Mm-hmm.
But you can prove competency on an interview.
Mm-hmm.
The key is working with someone that can get you here. See, what we're talking about is dealing with expert recruiters, not applying with HR. If you apply to HR without 25 years experience, you're going to get auto-rejected. If you apply to a job without sticking in 1,000,001 keywords of things that you don't know, HR is going to reject you. But if you do put these things down and HR doesn't reject you, you're going to go to the hiring manager and it's going to fail on the interview. The reason that people fail on the interview is they're going to key in on all the things that you don't know, because they're all going to be listed on your resume, and it's going to be a disaster, and they're not going to trust you and they can't hire you. Mm-hmm. So the key is finding someone like you. That's why we're thrilled to have you come on every week. That's why right now we have, how to reach you guys, send them your resume. But that's really the key. Send it to them. So, Chris, if you'd like to bring up the next one. Why RR4MX? Go Cloud Architects. Does HR take into account multilingual individuals, perhaps Russian, Norwegian, English, and French? Well, the key is we try to bypass HR with everything we do. HR is, generally speaking, the worst thing when you begin your career. Having said that, languages do matter in my experience. The more languages you speak, the better. Mm-hmm. So if you speak Russian, definitely helpful. If you speak English, great. French, great. Norwegian, great. Here's the key. You have the good communication skills in the primary language that you speak. Mm-hmm. And all these other backup languages, these things are great. I was asked to teach at Athens University one day, and I was like, wow, this is great. I was all excited. I was going to teach in Greek. And then they said, English, Michael, because we've got people from all over the world as part of this conference. And I was all bummed because I thought I could actually speak in Greek and do a presentation in Greek, which I love to do. But no, the more languages, the better. Chris, if you want to bring up the next one.
I agree.
Krillov. Is the multi-cloud certification from Aviatrix widely recognized by hiring managers, or with the vendor-specific ones? Okay, so Krill, I love that Aviatrix multi-cloud networking professional. I think it's real. I think the more vendor-neutral things you have that actually mean the cloud, the better off you will. Now, I got to tell you, when I start looking at these things, Krill, I always do a weight. And I try and weigh what's most recognized in the industry versus necessarily what's most recognized in the cloud. And by that, for example, if you had a choice to do an multi-cloud certification networking professional or CCIE, I'd say do the CCIE every day because it's going to hold more industry weight. So I tend for networking like the Cisco certifications. Because if you've got a Cisco certified network professional, everybody knows you probably have some networking knowledge. If you're a Cisco certified and an expert, people know you know networking. So I think that the certified solution architect professional or the Azure expert is your first baseline certification. I think you should generally have one in your area of expertise. So like a CISSP for a cloud security architect, or a CCNP for a cloud network architect. And then if you want to marry it off and get yourself like a TOGAF or one of the Aviatrix multi-cloud things, I think that is great. But once you reach a certain level of certification points, and I'll ask Kristina to talk as well, I think you're better off investing in more in your emotional intelligence, your empathy, your enthusiasm, your communication skills, presentation skills, your executive presence, and business acumen. When people say, should I do a master's degree in technology? I'm working in tech. I say, no, do an MBA instead. Do something that can really give you a competitive advantage. Not that I don't like education. I do. I love it. I went to school, graduate school a lot of times, but that's my perspective. So what are you seeing out there, Kristina?
Yeah. So, every time I interview a CTO or a C-level executive, I wonder what makes them different from the rest. So I can interview someone that makes 900,000 a year, another C-level person that makes 500. I'm like, what's the difference? What do you have? What do you have special? What do you bring to the table? What's different about you? Why do you get 900 and this person gets 6? How did this happen? And, after speaking with them, it all comes down to one thing: emotional intelligence. These people are highly they're emotionally intelligent people. All the stuff that they explain to me is, managing hundreds of people, or, just not having anxiety in certain situations, being able to deliver projects and get everybody on board. And, while some teams are fighting with one another, just being able to bring it all together calmly, being able to speak to upper management, being very confident and honest. These are all like emotionally intelligent stuff. And so I feel that the fact that you're bringing that training into your program is like, it's huge. It's great. It's so important. It might be more important than the actual tech stuff.
I think it's more important than the actual tech stuff, actually. We actually start with the communication skills, emotional intelligence first, and then what we do is we actually go from there to the rest of it. So, it's funny. Back in 2001, I had a manager, and my manager pulls me aside and he says, Mike, he said, you're not like the rest of these people.
Yeah.
He said, you walk differently, you talk differently, you dress differently, everything about you is different. So he said, I want to let you in on a secret. He said, you know the difference between a $100,000 engineer and a $300,000 year engineer? And I was like, no, tell me. Communication skills, leadership skills, executive presence, business acumen. And then he said, hey, by the way, Mike, since you're not like everybody else, how would you feel about attending training for this? And I was like, Christmas time, Hanukkah time, all at the same time. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. You're going to actually let me go to school and help pay for it? Well, he said that. That company invested heavily in me. I also spent an incredible amount of money. In total, $250,000 was spent for me to learn leadership skills, emotional intelligence, communication skills, and soft skills. That's how much. And you know how long it took to pay back? About a year.
Yeah.
That's how long it took to pay back $250,000 of training on soft skills development. So why do I focus so much on soft skills? Because it gives my students an unfair advantage. When you're applying for a job and you've got less experience, I've got to make you competent enough to do the job, but I can never make someone as competent as an expert with 25 years experience, but I don't even try. I give them the experience and capabilities of somebody with 5 years experience, and then I focus on making them a soft skills master. So they're so likable that it's kind of like, I have to hire you. In my life, of the 10 people I've hired, and I've interviewed 5,000 people to be able to hire 10, 6 out of the 10 were not the most technical. They were the people that were the most likable.
Right.
Only 4 that were technical happened to have a good attitude, energy, enthusiasm, and communication skills as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't have hired them. I don't hire anybody that's going to not make the energy in my team better. I like to hire people that are smarter than me. I like to hire the people that are going to work together and bring out each other's things. I want to know that I can take someone, have them work for me for a couple of years, and then get them promoted so they can build the best career forever. And then I can take in a new person and then train and develop them.
Right.
That's how we all move up together. We have the best and brightest. We take care of our people. As we rise, we take them with us with promotions, and everybody does well. That's what good leaders do. So I feel like you have to focus on those soft skills.
And that's something that is fading with I would say the new generation. I mean, my kids are like on their devices like this. And so technology affects emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I found this, and I wrote this down on the internet. It's like more time on tech. And this is why what you're doing is so important. So more time on tech is less time with your own thoughts and feelings, which is the heart of mindfulness. As tech dependency increases, with the kids today, and like I said, I see this firsthand, they live in a state of alienation, not in touch with their emotional selves, decreasing self-reflection, self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So it is a crucial component of leadership, the ability to manage your emotions as well as recognize and influence on others. We grew up where in order to talk to our friends, we had to call we had to call them at their house. Their parents would answer the phone and we'd have to ask their parents, may I speak to, there was so much communication going on. Now today, my kids go to a party and it's on their phones. There's people on the phones and that's the party. There's such a lack of, social skills. I think it's going to get worse. And I think courses like this, especially in tech, is so very important. What you're doing is so very important.
Thanks, Kristina. And that to me, that emotional intelligence is just everything. So, and that's why we do it. Chris, if you want to bring in the next question. Ismail Mahmoud, do I have to have deep Linux and coding skills to be a cloud solution architect? Well, Mr. Mahmoud, there is no coding as an architect. Zero. So you don't have to have great coding skills. Now, do you have to have good Linux skills? Again, there is no configuring as an architect. It's all design. But Ishmael, what you do need to know is how Linux works, and you have to have deep knowledge on Linux. Well, how does the kernel work? How does it manage memory? How does Linux work with the KVM hypervisor or the QEMU hypervisor? How would the containers be? Because everything's going to be on Linux. So for the architects, it's not do you know how to configure it, because we don't do any of that. It's not whether you need to code. You will never need to code. But what you do need to be able to do is design. And you can't design what you don't know. So for this, you must be great at design, which means the network and the data center. We are not going to code. We're not going to do infrastructures because these are engineering things. Mm-hmm. The architects only design. But you must have deep design skills. You must have deep business acumen. You must have deep communication skills. Lots of executive presence, good scale skills and presentation skills. I don't know why the people have confused engineering roles and architecture roles. A cloud architect versus a cloud engineer are so different. A cloud architect is an end-to-end system designer. A cloud engineer is a systems builder. So, for example, we cloud architects will never touch Terraform. We will never touch CloudFormation. There's DevOps engineers that do that for us. Right. So it's about having the right skills, which are design skills. But the architect is a half business, half leadership position. In fact, I'd say it's 60% leadership and 40% tech. So to be a cloud solution architect, you've got to focus on networking, data center, all the systems in the network and the data center, servers, server virtualization, containers, firewalls, load balancers, DNS, storage of all kinds, how storage works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's architect skill versus engineer skill. Chris, if you want to bring up the next one. Okay, well, Killian's got a fantastic question. How should a candidate ask a question that he doesn't know or understand? Now, I've had something that I've used for 20 years that I've been teaching. So I'm going to let Kristina tell you her approach, and then I'll tell you my approach, because they're going to be different, but both will help you.
So I always prep candidates to be confident in what you know and what you don't know. And I would say be even more overtly confident in what you don't know. So just be honest, be transparent. You maybe talk to the point where you have, if you don't have any knowledge, for that particular piece of technology, that's fine. And, just be confident in saying that. And you could talk about while you're interviewing for the role, you're looking to get into and be exposed to that technology. So I would say it's all about confidence and how you deliver that message. There's so many. One thing that most hiring managers hate is when someone tries to bullshit their way through an interview. Like it's
interview's over.
Managers will say it was going so well until they started to bullshit me, because it's like, stop. You don't need to do that. You don't need to go there. Just be honest. Be transparent. It's okay if you don't know something, one particular skill set. It's okay. It's all right. You can learn it. But the way you articulate and deliver that is key.
So let me tell you how I do that, because what Kristina gave you is the perfect answer. Be honest of what you know and don't lie. Once you lie, the interview is over. Mm-hmm. So I like to look about this. So what hiring managers tell me is they're looking for someone that's technically competent, meaning they can do the job. The next thing they tell me is someone that's trustworthy. So the second you lie, the interview is over. Then they tell me they're looking for people that are safe, meaning they know what they know and they know what they don't know, so they don't make mistakes. Mm-hmm. Then they tell me they're looking for energetic and enthusiastic and passionate people. They then say they're looking for people that bring out the best in others, that's emotional intelligence, are team players, and are willing to go above and beyond. That's what hiring managers overwhelmingly told me after I've asked, well, you don't want to know how many hiring managers I've asked over the last 20 years, and how many recruiters I've also asked. Because if I run into a recruiter or a hiring manager, this is what my life like. So nice to have you. Could you tell me what the hiring manager is like in your world? Because that's my world. It's research. So when I get a question that I don't know, I say, I'm sorry, I've not had the opportunity to work with that technology yet, and I want to be open and honest with you. But I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, and I absolutely love technology. And if this was part of my job, I would learn it immediately for you. Mm-hmm. But this is not an area where I have expertise. I want to build our relationship up right with true honesty, so you get to know who I really am. And if you'd like to judge my technical competency, I can talk to you in depth about X, Y, and Z. And by doing that, I basically told them that I'm everything that they desire. And I also point them to my strengths so I can take control of the interview. I'll tell you what I do know. So to ask me questions on what I do know. So you don't just do things via random and I go, oops, don't know that. Because there's only so many times you can answer no. But still, it's better to be no than never lie on an interview. That just ends it.
Right. And, Killian also said, how should a candidate answer a question that he doesn't know or understand? If you don't understand the question, then you can answer it and say, did I answer your question? You can always follow up with that. If you don't really understand the question, you could try to answer it and say, did I answer your question?
And actually, that's great. And if you notice, I've been doing that with every single question here. I hope I answered your question. If not, come back.
Right, so exactly, yes.
Now, what I do is, personally, I repeat back things to people. So I'm 3/4 behavioral scientist, 1/4 medical professional, and the technology thing has just been my love for the last couple of decades. So, but where I really spend my time is I read behavioral science constantly. And a lot of the work of Robert Cialdini on persuasion and exercising influence is as follows. They found and did lots of studies that if you repeat back something to someone for confirmation, it realistically makes them happier. So if someone says, ask you a question, say, I want to confirm that I heard this question. Are you looking for X, Y, and Z? Is this the question? And that way, people feel heard. They did this with waiters and waitresses, people that serve food, and they found the tips were like 40% higher when a person actually repeated back, okay, if I heard you correctly, you're looking for salmon on a double order of green beans. Is that correct? So it was done there. In medicine, it was taught to all of us so we don't make mistakes, but they also taught us that patient satisfaction was there. And when we started studying patient satisfaction, when we repeat back to people, there's there. So I would say if you don't know, clarify that really fast. And then after you answer that, you can say, I wasn't sure I completely understood your question. I hope I answered it correctly. If not, if you can give me a little more clarification, I'd love to do it. And something like that will help you.
Mike, I don't know anybody that has ordered a double order of green beans.
Oh, really?
No. Maybe like a double order of fries, but green beans. I don't know anybody that. I don't think I've ever been out to dinner with anyone that was like, "Can I have an extra order of green beans, please?"
One day we'll go to dinner. And here's my normal dinner.
Yeah.
I'd like this portion of lean meat, and instead of the French fries, I'd like 3 orders of broccoli.
Right. I have like there's like, can I have an order of fries?
Actually, yeah,
cheese,
Chris can tell you what it's like going to dinner with me, if he's around.
So, Chris is popping in. Chris, can you help me out? Can you help me out with that?
Yeah.
Have you ever ordered an extra order of green beans?
So,
if you have, just
I've heard Mike order 3 orders of broccoli. So
okay.
I mean,
all right.
Going out to dinner with Mike, that was it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
He liked it.
Okay.
He likes his broccoli. He eats healthily. I mean, that's who he is, though. He eats his broccoli. He eats his
2-pound salads every day.
Yes, exactly. And the best piece of meat in the restaurant, whatever it might be. If it's a burger, it's a burger. It's the best thing in the restaurant. But without the bread sometimes. But he's got I'm not sure what kind of bread it is, but is it multigrain or?
I generally don't eat grains, and occasionally, like once a year, I'll have like an Ezekiel muffin, and I'll use that on a hamburger.
Yeah,
but I've been on the paleo diet for a long time.
Ezekiel bread.
Yeah, and Mike loves his figs. Also.
We should do like a nutrition.
Yeah. Coming up.
On a side note, I've had a lot of conversations, in-person discussions with Barry Sears, who came up with the Zone Diet, and I also personally know the South Beach Diet, Arthur Agustin, as well. I've spoken to him on several occasions about nutrition, so I've been playing with this nutrition thing for a long period of time.
Right, like health, tech, and emotional intelligence.
Yep.
Now that would be fun.
I'm all about that too.
Yeah.
Okay, Kristina brought up a great question. So I've been teaching yoga now as well forever. I'm a 500-hour yoga instructor. Would you like me to have someone from my world, someone that's been teaching yoga, someone that studied with the Joyce family in India, someone that studied under Bikram himself personally for the last 20 years? Would you guys like me to bring in someone to talk about health and mindfulness? If you guys do it, type in yoga and health in the chat box, and I'll bring it in. Kristina wants it. I'll do it just for Kristina.
I want to be on that, by the way, too.
Okay, you got it. I'll make sure that I bring in one of the best yoga instructors I've met, someone that's trained with all of the greats directly from the source, and we'll do some health and wellness for you guys.
Oh, I'd love that.
Abigail Marks, what are your thoughts on hiring a professional to optimize your LinkedIn profile? And do we have any recommendations? So, Abigail, my thought is always optimize your LinkedIn profile. Abigail, the students in our program have the opportunity to submit their profiles to us, and we will actually give them guidance on exactly what to do. I think hiring a professional is great. The problem is most of the professionals that I know that are doing resume work don't know anything about the industries for which they're doing resumes. So I would say do it.
Yeah.
But make sure you've got experts exactly in the career that you desire to be able to look at it. So for me, what I do is I make my own, because I speak to recruiters, I speak to hiring managers, I know what they want. But then I hire a grammar editor because I don't have those skills. And the editor makes my things look good so I don't look like an uneducated person, because my world has never been spelling. My world's always been, either health or tech. So I definitely think it's good to pay someone to optimize your resume and profile, but only if they know your industry. So I would say do it first and then have somebody help smooth it over. What's your advice there, Kristina?
I agree. It's because again, that's a piece of advertisement. It's your brand. So so many hiring managers go right to LinkedIn. Also, to throw this out there, they also go to Facebook, they go to Instagram, they're doing a quick Google search on you, and You have to be careful what you post and, what your brand looks like. And I say this to a lot of kids that have just graduated college that are like, doing keg stands or, at parties, and which is all good. It's, it's fun, but you need to put, a more professional, persona out there once you graduate, and because people are digging around and to do their research. So yeah, LinkedIn, you can definitely find someone that's affordable. It's a good idea.
As a follow-up to that, where would you guys, nobody asked this, is just the next progression in this question.
Yep.
Where would you recommend that optimization or getting a third party to help you with it? Where would you recommend that in your development path? Because presumably, I know Abigail, she's someone that's through the course of the chat this week, she's starting down this path in her development. So where would you recommend someone reach out for help in optimizing their LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, there are marketing companies that you can reach out to, and they're affordable, third party overseas companies too, that if you're not looking to spend for a professional resume writer, that could be very costly. There are companies that that you can reach out to. And I would say your summary should be, your summary should be, and it doesn't have to be too much information. You don't want to put again, just kind of overkill. It's less is more, but you want to put the right information and to reflect your brand.
I think that's great. There are two freelancing services that I use frequently. One is called Fiverr and the other is called Upwork. And you can find great professionals from anywhere in the world to use them.
Yes.
Fiverr and Upwork. I use them constantly, but the key from me, Abigail, Max, and for others, I make it first. So I would almost encourage you, Abigail, to make 2 resumes. And one is for you that's actually accurate, and the other is make the resume, keep it to yourself, of the perfect resume for the job that you actually desire. Put that resume down. Know what it is that you need to know on the communication side. Know what skills you need. Know everything that you need and put that in the second resume. And use that second resume as part of your cloud architect career development plan or your tech career plan. Have that resume, and on side there, go, okay, I achieved this. I achieved this. And when you've achieved, 80% of the things on your perfect candidate resume, go reach out to the recruiters, because at 80%, that's the time to start the process. But make sure you're pretty much ready. And why do I say at 80%? If you're 80% of the comprehensive list, you're still going to be better than 90% of the people that are applying for the jobs. That gives you a chance to reach out to the recruiters, take in the recruiter's site. If they say, go back and do this in the next month, go back and do it, and then win on that interview. So this next question, honestly, I've got strong perspectives about, and the reason in my experience is when people have no experience, the hardest people for me to get hired are the younger people. It's very easy for me to get a 50-year-old that's been in sales for 20 years to work in cloud, because you assume there's wisdom and there's communication skills, emotional intelligence, and all these things are done. But that's in my background, but mine might be actually yours. Might be different than yours. What have you seen?
It's all over the place with that. I get companies that are like, we want somebody young and hungry that we can mold, and then you have other organizations that they might be limited on budget, and they need all this high level skill set, or they need somebody that has the life experience, like you said, depending on the position. That salesperson that I placed that had no that really wasn't tech, but was in the MSP world, so basically understood it anyway, could talk the talk, and didn't need to walk the walk, because that's what they have the other groups, the hands-on, operational teams doing that. So it just really depends on the organization. And look, some companies want somebody that's mature, that is going to stick with the organization for many years. You find a company that's close to your home, and you're looking to you're looking for a home within the organization. A lot of young people today, and back in the day, this was, it really wasn't kosher to do, is jump every 2 years. That's what you do now. That's what's acceptable. I haven't, a hiring manager has not said to me in years, oh, this person's a jumper, I don't want to interview them. Like, I almost get nervous when I see someone jumped around too much. I'm like, oh no, I have to make sure I'm prepared so I can present the candidate and say, well, listen, this is why this person jumped, and this company got acquired, and this company moved. Like, I have like an airtight alibi as to why. And then the hiring manager's like, yeah, let's get this person in. And I'm like, what? And it was something that was taboo back years ago. I remember a candidate into a company if they were a jumper. That's gone. That just doesn't happen anymore. Even consultants that are every 8 months at a company for the past 10 years, I can even get that candidate into a position. But maybe, right. Is that nuts or what?
It's really interesting. And one thing I will say to finish this answer and then answer that as well is play to your strengths. If you're young and you lack experience, show how much your energy, enthusiasm, and how fast you learn, because that's your strength when you're young. When you're older, your strength is your experience, your communication skills, the fact that you're not a risk taker, you're stable. So in any case, play to your strength.
Right.
I remember I was a jumper in the beginning of my career.
You were a
I
jumper.
first worked at that MCI WorldCom.
Yep.
I was there for 6 months. I was promoted to lead architect. And then what happened was, I was now the most senior guy on the team, and my manager says, you're the best guy here. Here's a 0.25% raise. And I went, okay. And then Omar, who's a guy on the team, said, hey, wait, there's this great firm, IT Accel. If you got the same kind of stupid bonus that I got this year, because then maybe you should call. So I had called Charlie Miller, that worked for you guys at the time, and he'd sent me to 2 major banks, and I had an offer within 5 minutes. Now, what I didn't know was how far Jersey City was from Princeton each day. I had no idea that 40 miles was going to take me 4 hours each day. So I went there and I went straight to Comcast. And when I went to Comcast, I was bored. I mean, really bored. I was in charge to design the backbone, but it was just like, I was bored. I wasn't super happy. So I had then gotten a job offer for Riverstone Networks, as well as you guys had got me a job offer, which I didn't accept, for a great Japanese bank, a truly incredible bank. Great people. They were wonderful people.
Oh, that was amazing. You could retire at that place back then.
Yeah, you could have. It was such a great place. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best job. But I have a chance to work at one of the most innovative tech startups in the world. And I took it. And I was there they did 13 layoffs while I was there. And then they finally got sold to Nokia. Well, first it was Alcatel-Lucent and now Nokia. I love that place. I talk to those people constantly. And then I went to Cisco. And then once I joined Cisco, there was no leaving Cisco until I was involved in an accident and couldn't walk or work for a couple of years. But other than that, there was no leaving Cisco. I was a hopper too. So Chris, bring up the next one. Mary O'Millan. Can you get a cloud architect or cloud engineer position without having a certification?
Yes.
I've got friends at every major cloud provider that have been hired for every level, including principal architect, distinguished architect. Now, most of them had a networking certification, but none of them had a cloud certification.
Yep, I agree. Interestingly enough, I just recently had the situation where someone put on a resume that they were certified. And I sent them in on the interview and got the job. And then the hiring manager said, hey, just want to verify the certification. Let me know what the numbers are. And then went back to the candidate and they said, oh, well, I'm like working on it. I was like, what? They don't care if you have the certification. They care on, on your technical skills. The person actually was like, you're challenging my integrity. I'm like, challenging your integrity? You lied. Like, he was actually mad at that. It was very bizarre. But I told the candidate, you didn't need to have that down on your resume is put pending. You know, if someone's enrolled in a program, or if you're in the process of getting certification, put that on. You know, in process.
The process is fine because it's honest.
Totally fine. It's fine. If not just as good.
What's not fine is someone putting down CCIE because they've done the written test, which anybody can pass in 3 minutes, but 90% of the people will still fill the major exam afterwards. That's not okay.
Yeah.
CCIE written, no, because that's not even a certification. You're allowed to take the exam. So
most people put CCIE written. In progress of CCIE lab exam scheduled for.
That's different. Again, that's different. It kind of reminds me, I was doing my rotations, and when I did my clinical rotations about 100 years ago, I see that Jesse actually brought it up. And I remember there was a guy in the clinical rotations, and he used to sign it MD in big letters, and then these little micro letters he wrote student. And I was like, okay, I tore it up, and I said, the next time you're going to write a prescription, you're going to ask somebody to co-sign it. It's going to be an honest prescription, med student. That's it. Since you can't write a prescription, and the nurse practitioner in his case actually had to co-sign it, or one of the physicians from the office, and I was like, no way. This is not who we are. Chris, if you bring up the next one, learning is fine. You work as a DevOps engineer. Great. Is it good to be certified to a secure job with visa sponsorship? Look, the certifications from my perspective will make your resume look better. So yes, have a DevOps certification, but really the whole point of these certifications is to make your resume look better, to get you an interview with the hiring manager. Beyond that, the certifications are completely meaningless. They're just to get you an interview with the hiring manager. They can help make up for gaps. You get hired based upon your knowledge, your attitude, your energy, enthusiasm, your communication skills. Do certifications play any part other than helping you get an interview in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful. It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, but does it help you get it? It's the interview, or is it helping you with more as well? With MSPs, managed service providers, or any consulting firm, certifications are a big help.
Yes, they're a big help. And like you said, the service providers, they have a quota. They can't even hire you if you don't have a certification. Just that's for that specific industry. But it's helpful. It's building your brand. It's building your niche.
Exactly. Okay. Completely agree with you.
Yep.
Make it focused. Build the brand that you need to be known for. Why R4MX at Go Cloud Architects? What would you consider important for graduate solution architect positions? Students ending soon in their positions. So here's what I would tell you. Why RRM4X? Typically speaking, when we're in school, they teach us the overall stuff. They teach us the associate level curriculum, because we take a lot of people that are finishing their master's degrees, and then we teach them how to become cloud architects. So typically in school, what they teach you is a little bit of Python, a little bit of AWS, a little bit of Azure, a little bit of this, a little bit of infrastructure as code, a little of a lot of things. And when you're in school, that is an excellent foundation to know about everybody's career. It's excellent. The problem is, none of that is what we do with solution architects. All of what we do with solution architects is take things from the network and the data center and move them to the cloud. So what I would consider important for graduate, you must learn the network. That means routers, switches. All networking is routers and switching, which means you must understand BGP in depth. You must understand OSPF. You must understand eBGP, IBGP. You must understand static and dynamic routing. You must understand that. You must understand bridging and switching and spanning tree and VLANs and .1Q tagging and 82.1x, MAC address authentication, ether channel, link aggregation groups, IPsec technologies, bare minimum. And you must have the equivalent of, I'd say, 10,000 pages of reading in just those things. We teach that with our students. That's just basically the minimum level of knowledge you need to know from the network. Then the data center. You must know servers. You must know server virtualization. You must know containers. You must know storage for real, because you may have to have a 5-day conversation with somebody about their storage. So you must have a deep, deep understanding, again, thousands of pages worth of object storage, block storage, and file storage, and the sharing protocols. You must understand IAM, and yes, IAM is different security. You must understand firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, all kinds of packet filtering. I mean, these are architect things. You must understand data and big data and the databases and what the databases are used for. Remember, as an architect, you're going to be a system designer, not a configurer. So you need to do that. Now, because this is a business position, you also need to have extremely good sales skills, great communication skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, those kind of things. So if you've been in sales, that will be one of the biggest factors for success. I'm going to tell you that sales skills, I would take over a master's degree in cloud computing every single day of the week to getting someone hired. I could say, if you give me a good sales rep and you give me 4 to 6 months, I can make them a cloud architect with no tech background, because sales skills are so important. So it's going to be great if you've worked for a big company. That will be very, very helpful for you. But sales, business, communication, leadership, emotional intelligence, speaking to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO, that's called CXO relevancy, dealing with personality types. Remember, 60% leadership, 40% tech for the architecture positions. Chris, you can bring up the next one. No, Kristina, do you have any ideas there?
No, I agree. It's exactly right.
Aqua, Kristina, what will you say are the 3 most common questions every candidate must be prepared for with any interview? I think that is a great question there, Aqua. I'll let her answer her 3, and I'll give you my 3, although I have a feeling they might be the same.
Yeah, I think it's that whole, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? How can you help the organization? Is there any questions that you have for us? I would say and again, those are soft skills. You're going to get teched out. But I think those 3 main questions are, how do you feel you could be a fit in this organization, or what can you bring to the table? Right?
They're actually all I was going to say. The only one I was going to add to that is, why should I hire you?
Right, exactly. Why should I hire you?
Which is another variation of one of the questions. So tell me about yourself almost always starts it off.
Yep.
Strengths and weaknesses almost always there. Why should I hire you? And how can you help the organization? 2 sides of the same coin. And do you have any questions? Now, don't just ask a stupid question because you were told to ask questions. I like to advise my students, when they say, do you have any questions? I like to say this: tell me what your goals are, so that I know if I was part of your team, I could help you achieve those goals to help you get to your goals. I like to ask that. I like to always remember it's all for the customer. They're hiring you to help them, so put everything in their terms.
Okay. I agree.
CEO Trell, which pays more, cloud architect or solutions architect? It is a cloud architect every day of the week, because a cloud architect works with every cloud. A solutions architect only works with one cloud. So the next question is, how should one negotiate an offer? CEO Trell, I recommend you go to the negotiation section of your course, because I know you have access to it. In there, we use the work of the Harvard Negotiation Project, as well as the work of Chris Voss. One was a hostage negotiator. One is the one that's trained almost every business executive as well as lawyer in the entire country on how to negotiate. Those are my recommendations. But I'll give you my recommendations is the following. Don't negotiate a job you can't afford to lose, ever. So if you can't afford to lose it, don't even try to negotiate it. Do not negotiate on your own. If you're working with someone like a Kristina, they can tell you the range. And they can tell you what other people. Do not go in there. Do not negotiate without knowing ahead of time what others are paying in similar situations.
Right.
Do not negotiate without actually knowing your true worth in the industry. Then, for the work of Harvard negotiation, come up with a BATNA, or your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. You have to know this ahead of time. If you can't come to terms, what will you do? Will you stay in your current job? Will you go to another job? You have to have this ahead of time. If you don't know what your backup plan is, in the heat of the moment, you can expect things. Now, when it comes to negotiation, here's my world. Remember, you have to work for this company later. So you can't create animosity.
Yeah, I agree.
When you negotiate, you separate the people from the problem.
Yep.
It's, that person on the other end is still your friend. He or she has a job to do, and you have a job to do. So make sure you make it a good experience. Let them know that your things that you need to achieve. Find out what's important to them. Give them something that's important to them. And maybe you can't ask for more money, but maybe you can ask for more vacation time, or maybe you can ask for special allowances. There's always something you can play with. Kristina, do you have any?
Yeah, so I was going to add that agencies get paid. We get paid pretty nice fees, and it's because our ability to negotiate. It's our ability to deliver the candidate excited, happy, especially if let's just say that the candidate is, like you said, can't afford to lose it. Don't negotiate if you can't afford to lose it. So, so many companies today want to remove the agency out of that equation. HR wants to deliver it. And I can't tell you how many times the deal gets destroyed. And it's a skill set. And it's challenging for somebody to negotiate on their own, because they have to be highly emotionally intelligent to do that. They have to remove the emotions, and being able to articulate and go to bat for themselves is very, very challenging and very, very difficult. But we get paid to do this. And I see that a lot of companies are just trying to remove the agency. They'll pay fees, but then HR wants to take over and deliver the offer. And maybe it's because in the beginning of the process, they were looking for a certain range, and 2 months have gone by and HR wants to go to that specific range, but 2 months now there's other offers. And then to be able to negotiate that, it just sometimes doesn't work out. So yes, if you have, I would do research on people within the organization, what they're making, what your value is, what your worth is, and then getting advice. If you have to negotiate for yourself, just getting advice from other recruiters and other people as well. But if you could leave it in the agency's hands to negotiate, and I would say that's ideal.
I think that's a great place. If the agency can do it for you, even better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Poor Emily. What a cool name. What advice would you have for someone transitioning? It's for a transitioning soldier as an IT specialist to a solutions architect. I have a security plus CSA and no hands-on experience. So that's actually interesting. You're really in a great position coming from the military. In fact, to let you know the kind of position you're in, one is I am actually in the process of creating a program specifically designed for veterans, just going to take a little longer than I wanted, that talks about going from military society to traditional society. For example, in the military, we can get away with command and control, but we have to use different leadership styles, affiliative and others. So there's a mapping of the civilian and the military world that needs to occur for a lot of people. I will tell you this, I ran an AWS boot camp about 3 months ago. And basically, we were doing the AWS Advanced Networking, Advanced Security, and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional that weekend. I had an interview day. There was a Marine who actually went to LinkedIn, and he made this really, really great post. And he said, I'm retiring from the Marine Corps. Would anybody be interested in finding a hardworking person that takes good direction, that's got a background in tech? I saw this, and this was so different than the LinkedIn post that said, I've been rejected. So please open your contact list and do this. Now, psychologically, that's a dangerous thing to do, because when you say, you're rejected, you signal the world that no one wants you. So dangerous thing to do, not the way to get hired. But when I saw this Marine do this, I sent him a connection request on LinkedIn, and I said, you know what? I'm running an AWS boot camp next week. And I said, I have 2 open slots. I said, as a thank you for your service, would you like to attend? He attended that boot camp. I will tell you, 2 weeks later, he posted on LinkedIn, I've accepted a great cloud engineer position. And when I reached out to me, he said, I needed the confidence, I needed the interview skills we taught in that class. That's all it took. And so I will say, poor Emily, if you're coming from the military, you know how to take direction. People love that. People can count on you coming from the military to get the job done. In the military, you're not lying to your commanding officer, and people like that. So military skills are desirable. I have a huge tactical background, and I believe that's helped me in my entire life, whether it be daily PT, whether it be getting hired. And I will tell you that those with this kind of background are really respected by employers, and many employers are saying, my God, we've got an initiative to hire military for these reasons. So I think you will be fantastic. Poor Emily. I think you will do really great. And that would be, highlight those great things that come from the military. I really think you'll be in great position. Actually, Kristina, what are you hearing from military?
Yeah. As more and more companies ask me for veterans and diversity is it's very important. So having that background, like you said, is is key. You summed it up great.
What's that?
You summed it up great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Theo Q. How often do organizations take the chance to hire a candidate with good soft skills and emotional intelligence with little tech experience for cloud architect roles? I can tell you my background, it happens all the time, but I've got a special 500-hour training program for people that have no tech background, and 500 hours is a lot. That's 50 AWS certified solution architect professional courses in terms of depth. But to me, it's all soft skills at that point and all emotional intelligence and still depth of knowledge. So realistically speaking, and I've sent you over the years plenty of people that have been home trained that you guys have placed, and none of them had experience, but every one of them knew how to interview, and every one of them had really good communication skills, and every one of them was, I can do this attitude. And every one of them went through my academy where they had servers, and if they were network engineers, they were doing labs with 50 and 60 routers and every routing protocol. When they're cloud people, they're building cloud. So, tell people about the people that you've had that have the best attitude, enthusiasm, experience, that have less experience or no experience, but the right skills. Because I don't think there's a such thing as no experience if you've done the right training. But there's a difference between certification training to me and actually get hired training.
Look, you have to start somewhere. At some point, you have no experience. At some point in your life, you have no experience. You're starting from the ground up. And let's face it, all of us get hired.
Yeah.
Somewhere, somehow, some way. The more certifications, I think, is just again, in a niche, you don't want 100 different certifications all over the place, and you don't know what to specialize in. You want to find what your passion is, and and what your niche is. But at some point, you've got to get your foot in the door somewhere. And if you think about it, when you're first starting out in your career, you're only getting hired based on your soft skills. Having all of the pluses is just kind of, you have a one up on someone. But you're getting hired on your soft skills.
Exactly.
That's it. We all start off getting hired off of our soft skills. We have no experience when we're coming, right out of school. So it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. I mean, tech people get hired all the time out of school with no experience.
Fresh out of school, no experience.
How does it start? It starts with no experience. So whatever you can do, to kind of boost your brand is great.
For example, I have a lot of my students co-author things with me. If they're ready and they can produce a good document, and I can get that document emailed to 15,000 people, read by 25 to 50,000 people through social media channels, and it's got my name associated to their name, the world knows them as an expert, and they're getting, within 48 hours, they're getting job offers. But, they have the knowledge first. They have the communication skills first. Then it's all about just branding and making people look more desirable.
Right.
Chris, if you want to bring in the next one. SF, is having a LinkedIn profile a must for applying to jobs? That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. I kind of get upset when I go to LinkedIn and I can't see someone's profile. I don't know why. I mean, I could just set up a call, like a video, if I want to, see somebody face to face. But everyone runs to LinkedIn.
Yes.
Everyone, you get a resume and you're like, okay, let me check this out. Yeah. So I think it's helpful. It's helpful if you have, the right information, the right picture, and again, it's like a digital resume.
Yes.
It's your digital snapshot. So yeah, I don't think it's a must, like it's, but then here's another negative to that. If you do have cloud on your LinkedIn profile, be prepared to get hit up
Constantly.
Yeah, like ridiculous. And you can get hit up 100 times a day. So
if I get a minimum of 3
with crazy job descriptions, I mean, yeah. So
I get 3 really high paying job people coming to me each day. I'd like to put you in for this VP position. I'd like to put you in for this lead architect position, this distinguished. Every day I get 3 of those really good ones.
Yeah.
And then I get a whole bunch of these kitchen sink job description. Hey, are you interested in this? And I'm like, I generally try and ask the recruiter that sends these things to me. I'm not interested, but I've got a lot of people that are. Could you actually tell me what the job is? Find out from the hiring manager, because I know it's not this. And if it's a good recruiter, they're like, yeah, this is the job description, but what the client really wants is this, this, and this. And if they're a bad recruiter, they're like, what do you mean? And I'm saying, well, you just wanted 22 years Kubernetes experience. That hasn't even been around for that long. So find out what they really want, and then I can help you find somebody. But that's it. But I do recommend having a LinkedIn profile, but I also recommend this. Be very careful with your social media. You're never drunk. You're never partying. You're never using an illicit substance. You cannot have any political posts whatsoever unless you're a political activist. If you've got something that says, I don't like Democrats or I don't like Republicans, you lost 50% of all employers that fast. But it's more than that. The second you say, I don't like conservatives, or I don't like socialists, or I don't like liberals, you then signal the hiring manager to know that you can't work with people that are different than you, which makes you 100% unhireable. And if you are hireable, it's for really low paid positions where they're going to lock you in the closet and bring you out occasionally for food. Not architect positions, not leadership positions, not anything really great.
I'd like to bring something up. So would it be safe to say that the LinkedIn profile is another tool to get you a job? And if you're not using it, you're just missing out on a significant opportunity. And would it also be safe to say that having a LinkedIn profile solidifies the perception of legitimacy?
I would say that is exactly accurate there, Chris. It makes you look legitimate.
Yeah.
It makes the world know that you exist. It's part of your professional brand. And personally speaking, if you're going to work so hard to learn a skill like cloud architecture, and you're going to dedicate 500 hours to learning these skills, build your brand.
Let the world know.
The strategy, and I'm not really great at this strategy, but the strategy is, 20% of your time could be generating content, and 80% of the time should be promoting that content. Well, you know what? When you begin, 80% of your time should be learning what you need to be good, and 20% to be building your brand. And as you get better in your career, more time is spent building your brand. That's the secret to success.
That's right.
So get yourself a LinkedIn profile, but you can skip the Facebook and the Instagram and all those other things unless you desire to be there.
Yep.
So, Noel, speaking of certificates, do you advise removing certifications that have expired, or do you advise writing on the side that they've expired? Oh, that's a good one, Noel.
That is a really good one. I haven't really thought about that.
I recommend removing things that are not there or current, unless there's something big. Like if you had a CCIE for 8 years and then it expired, put it there, because that's going to show that you could do it. If you had a CISSP that expired, keep it there.
Yeah, but
if
not like a
Windows
Windows 95
that's expired, or an AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, or a Windows MCSC from NT 4.0.
Right, I forget it. Yeah, exactly. Like the A+.
Yeah.
And you have all this experience. Exactly. But yeah, I agree. The CCIE and CISSP and
the big thing.
Because you usually at that point your experience outweighs the certification.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask if you're here, if you're enjoying the content, if you can like the content, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be informed of new things. And while you're at it, type hashtag Cloud Hired, and then Kristina and I will start asking some more questions. What do I think about adding a video introduction link to your resume or cover letter? I have very mixed feelings about this. So Kristina, I'm going to let you start.
So I know that's something that is that's becoming popular. It hasn't really it hasn't hit yet. No, I don't see it often. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten a video, but I know there are companies that try to push that. But like I said, it hasn't taken off yet. Maybe down the line, maybe this generation coming up that are teenagers, because they're so TikToked out and everything's video, maybe then I can see that happening. But I think it's I think it's a cool concept. I think I don't know, the resume has just been around for so long. I almost feel like it's just such a old school thing. Is that ever going to change? Why not a 1-minute video to just, you get to see so much.
Yes.
You get to see the personality, the enthusiasm, the presentation, the smile, and, you see the eyes light up when talk about, that they just got a certification and what they love to do. And I don't know. I like it personally, but I don't know. Mike, what do you think?
I don't know either. What I will say is I always go back to the data from Harvard. When people actually look at communication, 55% is what you look like when you say it, 38% is what you sound like when you say it, and 7% is your actual content. So there's a good and a bad side of this. One is, on the good side, if you make a really good video and you communicate well and you can show some executive presence or gravitas and stellar communication skills, and you can summarize things succinctly, wow, that wins over the hiring manager. But if you're going to make the video, remember, 55% is what you look like when you say it. So if you're going to do this, pay a really good video editing team, $200-300 to make it look good. Make sure it's shot professionally. Make sure the lighting is good. Make sure the background is good. Make sure that it looks so good. And it may cost you $500 to $700 to put a video like this if you're going to do it. But if you're going to do it, really make it shine, make it great. Unless you've got, I'm using a Blackmagic 6K camera and some great video editors, and we got studio lighting, and there's a green screen sitting behind me. So unless you've got these kind of cool things and specialty computers, outsource it to someone that can. So I think it's that. But I think you got to remember one other thing, that hiring managers don't have a lot of time. So if you said something that's got, that's I can read while I'm on a conference call, I can look at it. If it's a video, I probably don't have the time to watch it. So when I grade homework, and I do a lot of videos, first thing I do is I grade the papers because they're easy. And for the videos, I wait till I actually have time to watch them in their entirety. So I think you do lose the possibility of getting seen. But I love the concept. I'm just not sure if the world's ready for it, but I love the idea.
I agree with you.
So listening to both of y'all over the last two questions, I think marrying social media like LinkedIn with your resume is where it's going to end up being. Because Mike mentioned having using social media to put your content of your brand and yourself out there. So if you're putting out video content, that's one way that you could get around putting it on your resume, so to speak. Because people are going to look for you on LinkedIn, and if they come across you on LinkedIn and they're like, "Oh, there's a video he did."
I like that.
Great explainer video. That's excellent, Chris.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think that's. I've thought about that too over the past few years. I'm like, because I noticed, especially in some foreign countries, pictures on resumes and videos, and those things are very common in some foreign countries outside the United States. And so once I started to see that in my previous field, I was like, okay, that's probably going to become something on LinkedIn. And then the next thing I know, the profile pictures on LinkedIn can now be videos on LinkedIn on the profile picture. So I think that's going to be the natural progression, is that You may not have it on your resume because your resume is still a piece of paper,
right?
But you will have your social media content that people will be digging into. So.
Plus, it kind of reminds me of the movie Legally Blonde. I know that's totally off topic, but I had been traveling throughout the world. I hadn't been back home to the US for about 2 months straight. My wife says, I got a movie. It's called Legally Blonde. And in there, she wanted to go to Harvard and she made this resume. She's in her pool. And while she's swimming in the swimming pool, she's talking about how she's good at this, this, and this. And it worked for her. She got into Harvard. So I do love video. Emaneki Williams, how possible is to get hired in Canada or USA while residing in Nigeria? Okay, well, we recently helped somebody find a job in Lagos, and I got to tell you, it was a lot harder than it would be in the US, but in our case, we were able to just provide the guidance and to do something like that. I do know that it's possible, and the reason I know it's possible is I am constantly bombarded with jobs in Japan and jobs all over the world, but I don't know how easy it is either. So, I get reached out a lot, but I do a lot to build my professional brand. First, I used to travel 300,000 miles a year. I'd speak at constant conferences so people actually know who I am. I do have students in Nigeria and they do very well, and they can and do get remote positions. So the answer is that it's very true, but you have to be really great. So make sure you're really, really great. Make sure your brand is really great. Be better than the competition. And then no matter where you are in the world, regardless of the economy, you can do well. Nigeria is a major tech center right now. I mean, I have 80 plus Nigerian students in my cloud architect career development program and about 50 from neighboring Cameroon. So just that area. There is a lot of tech investment. AWS is investing heavily in South Africa. Lots of things going on in that Nigeria, Cameroonian region that's going on. But, I'm also hearing from people in Ghana every day, Ethiopia every day, Eritrea, Somalia, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Benin, Gabon. So, and just at Kenya, I'm seeing a lot of students coming in from. So there's a lot of work that's actually going on on there. So I'd still say you can do this, try hard, put everything what you have into it, and you'll be wildly successful. Go after it. Chris, I'll bring up the next question. Hopefully we can get to as many, but I don't know if we can all of them, but we'll do what we can. Lenny, how to showcase your tech skills in your CV if you don't have real experience. Mike, you mentioned how your students. Okay, I'll tell you how we do it. So Lenny, because we are not running like a certification program, we're running a cloud architect career development program, which is 500 hours. And all of our students effectively are basically students and interns all at the same time. Our students all have a Go Cloud Architect section on their resume that looks like a job. Our students who work with VMware can say, worked with VMware ESXi for enterprise-wide computing. Our students have the ability to say, set up Docker containers for enterprise computing. Our students have the ability to say, set up server built NFS for enterprise-wide file sharing. Our students have the ability to say, built an Active Directory server for enterprise-wide IAM. Our students have the ability to say, built an OpenStack cloud for enterprise-wide computing. So if you're in a program like ours, it's real easy because we've got a section that we do where we put the experience that the hiring managers can talk about, and it's real experience. Our students have done it, so it's authentic. Now, if you're not with us, the closest thing you can do is to create a research and development section on your resume. And in that research and development section, do everything from setting up server virtualization to working with routers, switches, firewalls, like all of my students do. And then put that on your resume under the research development section. You've got to get those skills there, but you can't lie. So it has to be someplace that's really rare. And one question creepily came in about SF. Yes, employers check social media. They always do. If you've got a hateful post, we can't employ you. If you've got a post that doesn't like a certain population that's different, like a Democrat or a Republican, we can't employ you. If you're drunk in a post, we can't employ you. If somebody's smoking marijuana in a post, we can't employ you. Even if you're smoking in general, that can affect because most people don't want smokers because smokers have to smoke.
Unless you're in New York City.
unless you're in New York City.
We've removed marijuana off of the drug tests.
Okay, there you go. In certain things like that.
Maybe
So
Colorado.
These kind of things,
Yes,
and I have nothing.
I know what you're saying. All right, I know what you're saying. Right.
Tyrone, you're in the new vehicle sales industry for the past 15 years. Kristina, career change is tough. Would my experience help with a cloud architect career? I realize there is a lot to learn.
Oh yes, absolutely. You're in sales. We just spoke about 2 examples of how in our experience we've gotten people hired just with the sales background and the emotional intelligence skills that come with being a salesman. So absolutely.
I think they're the most critical skills.
It's hard on the psyche. You know, you have to, it definitely, you know, your ego, your confidence, like it, you know, it's that all plays into it. When changing career. So yeah, it really is like, you know, it's, you know, you have to deal with like, oh, can I do this? Am I smart enough? And can, you know, so you have to deal with all that. But yeah, absolutely. I think you have more of an upper hand coming from a sales background.
I do as well, Tyrone. I think it's a great background.
Yep.
Alan, I'm interested in data engineer, data scientist, but being approached for cloud engineer jobs. What percentage of companies are mature enough to hire data scientists? Well, we've got a little bit of knowledge here. I think data science is one of the coolest careers in the future. Now, I also will tell you that it's been my experience, because I train a lot of data scientists to learn cloud, because most of the data scientists that I know have PhDs in math, and it's kind of almost a job requirement, even though it doesn't need to be. And data science experience, from what people tell me, the data scientist jobs are the hardest to get in the entire world. So how easy it is for you to place data scientists, Kristina?
So let me read this to you. It's projected to grow, IT is projected to grow 13% from 2020 to 2030, faster than the average of all occupations. Demand for these workers will stem from greater emphasis on cloud computing, the collection and storage of big data, and InfoSec. Most demand tech skills 2021 is cyber, cloud computing, data science, DevOps, AI, machine learning, augmented reality and VR development, and blockchain. So it's up there. It's definitely up there. Yep.
It's up there. And I think it's the really coolest thing. My person will say, Chris will mute me. Chris hates that I will tell people that he went to a huge, long data scientist boot camp. That's one of the things I love about Chris.
Me, Chris, or the other Chris?
No, Chris muted me because he didn't want me to say that. He's a very humble guy about his background, but okay. I think data science is fantastic. I am no data scientist. I don't have a PhD in statistics. I am not a calculus person. It is not me by any stretch of the imagination, but I see it. I had my good friend Alvin DaCosta, who's a VP over in NVIDIA, on our channel last week. You can see that. Chris will put the link in that. And he also talked to you, but I think data science is really, really, really a phenomenal place for the future. Theo Q, if an organization posts a role, how do you find recruiters for that organization if we don't want to go through HR? Well, Theo Q, if you're one of ours students, what happens is every single day, 1,000,001 recruiters reach out to me. And what I do is I wait for the students that I know are ready. I can't call a recruiter until I know the student is ready. I can't, because the recruiter's career is based upon them delivering excellent candidates. So, there's that. But what I would say is go find yourself some great recruiters ahead of time. Let them help you find one. Send your resume to IT Accel. They've listed their email. They're happy to take your resumes. So, Chris, pop up the email address for IT Accel. Seriously, send IT Accel your resumes. If it's cloud that you're ready for, they'll help you. If it's not, they're still connected to everybody. So send your resume to info@itaccel.com, like on the screen. Send them your resume. They're wonderful. They place more people than I can count over the years. Reach out to the best.
Thanks,
Chris,
Mike.
You're welcome. Bring up the next one. And that's why I brought IT Accel, because they're the best I know. So,
and anyone can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn as well. You can send your resume to info@IT Accel, but I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me.
Umang, you joined this talk a little late. Don't worry, it happens. Just still happy to have you here. Can you advise beginners with relevant 8-year IT experience not on cloud how they should approach things, and what all certifications are required courses? So, Yun great question, but before we can plot you a course from where you're at now to the destination, we have to know exactly what your destination actually is. Because if it's a cloud architect, which I think it is, it's one destination. If it's a cloud engineer, it's a totally opposite skill set, which is another destination. So I can't really give you advice until I know the career you desire. Otherwise, it's going to potentially be wrong. And on Monday and Wednesday, we really, when we do our QAs, we really, really, really go deep into each one of these careers. So if you let us know, great. Rohan, are the requirements of big tech companies like Google and Amazon different than getting hired at non-tech companies? A little. For example, in the other companies that hire cloud architects and professionals, there's not as much sales involved. So if you work directly for a bank, you'll do less sales than if you work at Google. Having said that, even if you're working for this big bank, you're going to design your system. You're still going to have to convince your manager, your manager's manager, and the entire executive team to invest in your solution, which could be hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. So you're never going to get out of the sales. But that's my experience. Kristina?
I agree.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Solo W, what advice do you have for public shyness?
Oh.
I had a very controversial approach to this many years ago. I had a candidate that was really shy. He was really afraid of people, and he was terrified to talk to girls. So one day I said, we're going to go to the bar together. And I said, what? And I said, you're going to approach every beautiful girl that you're attracted to that you're terrified of. I then years later did this with a girl for a guy. And I don't care if they were gay and they approached someone of the same sex or approached someone from the opposite sex. I wanted to put him in a stressful situation. This guy was terrified of beautiful women. So we went to a restaurant bar together and I said, okay, you're going to do the first one, the second one, the third one. You know what happened by the end of the night? He was comfortable. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't so scared. And then we ran through my cognitive behavior therapy environment. I said, did you die? And he's like, no. I said, was anybody mean to you? And he's like, surprisingly, no. I said, did you get over your fear? And he said, yes. I said, so now, next week, you're going to deliver the speech to me about this technology. I want to know what it is, how it works, and why organizations use it. It was like night and day. He went from stuttering to be relaxed. So I'd say, whatever we're most afraid of, go out there and do it until you're great at it. Just safely, please. So I think we can probably do one or two more before I get told that we have to stop. So we can probably do like one or two more. Chris, you want to bring one or two more in? Deepak, what should I choose between a cloud architecture versus data scientist with 15 years experience? You are working with Tableau and Cloud RDS is hands-on. Well, what makes you happy, Deepak? That's what you should determine. Plus, think about what you like. So, if, by comparison, you like sitting behind a computer, if you enjoy coding, if you enjoy learning new algorithms and want to be hands-on and love math and love algorithms, then data science is great. If, by comparison, you like being customer-facing, interview with clients, having discussions, then cloud architecture is great. I will tell you, architecture pays a lot more than data science. Easily double, but you got to choose what makes you happy. I would be miserable with numbers. I'm not a numbers person. I'd like to go out and speak and talk. That's what makes me happy. But you know what? I would be miserable doing data science because I'm not that person. But if I love numbers and I love statistics and I loved writing scripts, ooh, let me tell you, data science would be really fun for me. And if I didn't love talking and I didn't love presenting, there would be there. But I would say this on the data science side, there's two kinds of data scientists. There's the kind that everybody thinks of, which is the genius mathematician that can run the numbers. If you want to know how you build your career, instead of being just the genius mathematician, be the data scientist that can explain what these numbers mean to the CEO. Again, business acumen, emotional intelligence, executive presence, sales skills. Now you're not just a regular data scientist. Now you can analyze an organization's data and be a strategy advisor. Now you can make a big impact, and that's how you're going to build these huge rocket ship-like careers. Kristina, do you have any guidance on that?
Yeah, it's all about your passion and what you truly love doing. So
fantastic. For me, it's all about you've got to love what you do. So we'll close it on this. When you're dealing with employers, and I will get your perspective, obviously, Kristina, I think you have to do what you love. I think the key to building your career is to truly being great at what you do. I call you guys and have for 20 years because I know that if I call you with a good student, you call them back and you get them hired. So it's that competency, that brand that really means a lot to me. So I say be great at it. So everyone here, if you've got a resume, send it to info@IT Accel. Seriously, send it to them. Start a conversation.
Right.
Meet with recruiters on your team.
At least that. Start a conversation. Start developing relationships.
And it might not be right now that they have something because you might need a little more. Guess what? It doesn't matter. Build your relationships, nurture those relationships, grow those relationships, and then when they have something, you'll be the first one on their list. So find yourself one or two great recruiters. One or two, because you probably need to have between 1 and 3. I generally have a couple. I have one that works specifically with, executive only positions. And the only reason I use them is there's a couple of tech companies that only work with those recruiters. And I use IT Accel for every tech position for the most part otherwise. And, there's somebody else that had gotten me a job years ago that did a great job. And they periodically send me things. And I keep a relationship up with them as well. Now, just because, I think it's important to have 2 or 3. Great. You don't need 100. You don't need 200. You don't need 250 like I have them. Why do I have so many recruiters? Because I've got so many students. And I love having recruiters reach out to me every day so that I can say, hey, this is the right person for you. But I send my primary people, where I send them because you get lots of phone calls from me over the last couple decades. So that's all I have to say for the day, other than I'm really grateful to have you guys here. To me, it's about making sure we give you guys what you need. It's about building your team. They're the best partners I know for your team. So I'm going to keep bringing them on. I love when Kristina comes here. Send them your resumes, everyone. Send it to them. Build the team, build your career, and get cloud hired. Kristina, do you have any other last minute things to say?
No, I think you articulated everything very, very well. I agree with everything that you said, and I love doing I love doing these with you. It's having that outreach and being able to answer questions for not only people in the U.S. but all over the world. I think is just so super cool. So thank you. I appreciate it. And whenever you want me back, I'll be here.
I want you back 2 weeks from now. I am thrilled to have you on. For me, the key is this: connecting the tech people with people like you that'll get them cloud hired. We train them to get them cloud hired, and then we reach out to you. But I want everyone to be armed with the right information. You speak to people, hiring managers every day. So do I. I tell people, because I see what happens is you've got someone that's never had a job advising someone on how to get the job that they don't know how to get themselves, who's then advising the next person. And then by the time I'm done, I interview people that have every skill other than the one skills they need. So I think it's important to really bring experts in like you. I'm deeply grateful for coming onto the show.
Yep.
Thank you. And that's Chris telling me it's time to prepare for the next thing.
I actually have a suggestion. So there's obviously, because we never can get to every single question, because that's just the nature of these things. Mike, Can we ask people to, if we didn't get to their question, because they came in the past 30 seconds or so, if they would put them in the comments after the video is finished, and we can get you or me or somebody, we can get to them. And
Yep.
You know what? Do that.
Yeah.
If you've got questions that we didn't answer, here's what I'd like you to do. List those questions in the comment section. And you know what? I'll make a YouTube video next week that basically is questions that we didn't get to. So I'll answer your questions in the form of a video.
Perfect. Awesome. So I'm not here to tell you have to leave, but you kind of have to. Leave.
Okay, so we're gonna have to shut it down. So
yeah.
Let's do this. Please
hit
the like, comment, and share. And if you want to leave the country that you're in, I always love finding out which country you're in. If you want to leave the country you're in or the country you're from as a closing statement in the chat box. And if we didn't cover anything and you guys want it, leave it in the comment section. And this Saturday or Sunday, I will basically make a video and answer all your questions.
Yep, and they won't be able to put it in the comments till we're finished with the live stream. And
basically what happens as soon as the live stream done, there's going to be a comment. For those of you that are going to be part of our AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Free Bootcamp, we look forward to seeing you in less than an hour, which is why Chris is reminding me I need to eat something and drink something before the next presentation. Also, Kristina, thank you again just so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience. It does so much to help the cloud architect community, the cloud engineer. You help people understand the difference between a cloud architect versus a cloud engineer. You get people to understand what exactly employers are looking for from an actual cloud architect or a solution architect. So thank you again. Really appreciate your time and help.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Now go eat your double order of string beans, will you?
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I've got paleo meal delivery service because I don't even have time to cook meals anymore. Take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.